Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Hello. This last week has flown by. Hello, everybody. Ooh, it is chilly in here. It's chilly here in Virginia. Hello, everybody. It's so great to see you. Today we're going to be painting on the Lamp Post Art Quilt. So thanks for joining me. If you're here on the live chat, say hello. If you're watching on the replay, say hello. We'd love to hear from you. Hello, everybody. Miss Trinita just asked, how would I do this in fabric if I didn't want to use the paints? That's what I'm assuming, Miss Trinita. You're in luck because next week I'm going to be starting on a fabric version of this quilt. I'm going to make a video. So if you want to do this quilt with fabric instead of paint, be patient with me because I will be making a second one of these quilts and I'm going to post the video once I have it done. So sometime next week, I'm going to get that started. Hello. I think we did go over a little bit of the idea of doing it in fabric in video 1. So these Lamp Post Art Quilts are in a playlist. So go check out week 1. I think we did mention a little bit about the method working with fabric, but it's in there somewhere. Hello, everybody. Hello. Cheryl asked about the paints. Let me just show them to you before we get started. I'm using acrylic paints, y'all. You can use any brand acrylic paints. They have the Deco Art. They have the Apple Barrel. If you go to your craft stores or to the Walmarts, any acrylic brand paint works fine. I just happened to have purchased a set, okay? This is a set of 36 colors. It's by a brand I hadn't heard of, but I have been using these paints in the last 2 art quilts here and there, and I'm pretty pleased with them. It's TMOL. I've added a link in the description box if you want to check it out. It did come with a set of brushes that were pretty nice brushes, so you got that as a bonus, but 36 colors, that's a lot of paint. That's a lot. What else? Oh, before we get started, if you're on Patreon, don't forget, I want to remind you, Sunday we're doing our quilt retreat. So from 2 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can come hang out with us, bring your UFOs, bring your current working projects, or just come hang out. 2 to 8 p.m. I might be painting on this. Actually, I have 2 quilts that need to be quilted, one for me and one for Miss Devi, and I might actually be working on one of those. We'll see. Hello, everybody. It's so great to see y'all. It's so great to see you. Happy Friday, everybody. And a reminder, if you missed the first mug rug, see the little baby mug rug up there on the wall? The Love You mug rug. We did a live this past Tuesday. So you can check that out if you've missed it. It's a free pattern, and we walk through making the mug rug in the video. So don't forget to check that out if you missed it. Hello, everybody. Ooh, I'm chilly. Still a little stuffy, too. So bear with me as my voice goes in and out. I'm going to switch it over to the cutting mat. So if this is your first video, you see the painting right here, right there. That's what this art quilt is inspired by. A painting, actually I did 3 of them a few years ago, and I changed it up a little bit. But in the past week since I was with you last Friday, I have painted all of my black lines. So if my freezer paper starts lifting at this point, I could just re-iron it just to fuse it back on my fabric. I am leaving the freezer paper on for now because it helps keep that fabric still while we're painting. It'll come off once everything is painted in. Pardon me. All right, now I can switch you down to the cutting mat. And in last week's video, I know Miss Pat asked after the live was over about an SVG file if you want to do this quilt with fabric and you don't want to fussy cut the lamp portion, the very center portion of this quilt. Was I going to offer an SVG? And yes, this is actually it. And this is actually cut out of paper. I'm going to save it and do something fun with that. But so the separate SVG is available for this quilt if you have a cutting machine like a Cricut, Silhouette, or a Brother Scan and Cut. You can purchase this and forego the fussy cutting the center portion of this quilt. Sharon asked, have you made bowl cozies? I think, Miss Sharon, I've made 2 in my lifetime. And that's really all the desire I have to make bowl cozies. In theory, they're supposed to be really simple, right? I don't know why I struggled with them so much. And I love using a bowl cozy, but I've only made 2. All right, so I think that's all the news. Just making sure. Yeah, I think that's all the news. So let me just scoot this in. And y'all, the whole quilt is not going to fit in the screen. It's not going to fit, but there we are. And here's the color example that I'm going to go by. However, I've seen the 3 people post on the Creative Crew. They've already painted their quilt tops. And some people have used the color purple. Let me just tell you, I'm partial to purple. It's my favorite, and I've almost been tempted to change the blues to purples. But I'm going to stick with the blues and get out of my comfort zone because I pick purple so much in my fabric choices. So here lately, I've been trying to work in other colorways other than purple, but let me just tell you, I've been super tempted to change it up. Now, and here's the thing. I love that y'all have swapped out the colors. And it's your quilt. Use the colors that you want. I only suggest colors. But yes, I love it if you totally decide to go in another colorway. Cheryl said, I don't have sound or a picture yet. Can y'all see me? Can y'all hear me? It might be, Cheryl, that you need to back out of the video, maybe even close YouTube down and then come back. Kathleen says she can see me, she can hear me. Okay, so Cheryl, you probably need to just close YouTube down and come back. All right, y'all can hear me. I want to thank Miss Sylvia and Miss Vicky as we get started today. Thank y'all for keeping an eye on the chat. It helps so that I can focus. I have my paintbrushes under here. So I can focus on what we're doing. And as we get started today, y'all, I miss a lot of stuff in the chat. If you have questions specifically for me, if you type them on all caps, it helps catch my eye, but even sometimes then I miss them. But I know we have a lot of helpful people here in the chat right now, and so maybe someone else can answer your question as well. So make sure you read the chat, and I always come back later on and read through the conversation because I always feel like I miss so much. And Miss Diane 57, thank you so much for moderating. All right, so these are the colorways I'm working with, and I thought, let's just start in this upper left corner. This is going to be a very non-structured video, y'all. And the way that I paint this in might be totally different than the way you paint this in. And let me just touch on this because I did see this question before we actually started today. Could you use colored pencils? Could you use Inktense pencils? Yes. Yes, you could. The Inktense would be brilliant. I think using the pencils, you have some bigger spaces to color in, so it might take a little bit longer. But Inktense on fabric is gorgeous. You could use the blocks. You could use the Inktense paint palette sets. Those colors are amazing. You could use watercolors. You could use paint markers. You could use fabric markers. There's a difference there. Search that if you're looking for different mediums, but you don't have to use the acrylic paints if that's not your medium that you're comfortable with. All right, who on the crew did a demo on Quilt As You Go? Beverly, I think it was Linda Russell. If you're on the creative crew, go to near the top, underneath the banner. There's little captions that says photo and files and all that stuff. If you click on photo video, you have to scroll through to find her, but the videos are in there. And I think that was Miss Linda. All right, y'all, I'm going to start right here in this little section. And I'm going to be working with blue. Now, in the last art quilt we did, the little mystery quilt we did, I painted my colors in solid. And I thought for this one, we would get a little fancy. Hold on a second, y'all. Okay, yeah. Whew, I got scared for a second. I thought I muted myself. I'm going to get a little fancy and I'm going to try to do some gradients. I do think painting the gradients on a canvas would be much easier than gradiating the colors on the fabric, because when you put this paint right on the fabric, it just wants to soak in. But we're going to try it and see. Oh, I haven't used this blue color yet. I got to take the little thingy off. See that? They come with this little paper thing you got to take off. I guess it seals up the bottle for shipping. I'm just poking a little hole in there. Just poking a little hole. All right, now we can mix some paint up. I'm going to put some of this blue in the little cup. And I am working with a fabric medium. In case you haven't seen it, I'm using the Deco Art fabric medium. I really like it. I'm going to tell you, I'm a little bit wanting to say that I almost like this better than the GAC 900 fabric medium. I know, but I really do like it. Let's mix in this fabric medium. You'll notice I have a piece of paper under this in case I splash anything. Because I'm feeling a little bit on the messy side today. And we're just mixing. We're going to mix this until it's the solid blue color. And that just takes a minute. Y'all, we have about an inch of snow from yesterday, and it's only in the grassy areas and on the cars and on the rooftops. But this evening we have another round of snow, and this is supposed to be more significant than what came through yesterday. Although the forecast has changed. I think earlier in the week they were saying like a foot of snow, and now it's like 3 to 6 inches. Who knows what we're getting? Who knows? I almost wish that they wouldn't talk about it so early on and make a big prediction like a foot of snow, because we know it's going to change by the time it gets here. It's never exactly what it's always going to change. It's either going to be way less or way more. I almost wish they wouldn't talk about it so early. Because then you think, ooh, a foot of snow. And then a few days later, you only get an inch or so. All right, so I have my blue paint mixed up. I'm going to move this over. And because I'm going to do some gradients, I'm going to move this over a little bit so I can reach it a little bit easier. There we go. I didn't really plan this out when I did the whole thing, how I was going to fit it in the screen. All right, y'all. By all means, let me just give you this tidbit of information. I am not a professional painter. It's something I'm passionate about. It's something I love to do, but I'm not a professional. So if you see me doing something and you're like, oh, why is she doing that? It's because I don't know any better. I'm going to add just a little bit of black. And I'm not adding a fabric medium to it because we already have it in the blue. And I'm going to add a little bit of white over here because I'd like to do a tad bit of gradients in this spot. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, and I know, right? 2 inches down from 6. I just don't understand. All right, I'm going to be using my trusty old little brush. It's kind of small for this big area, but I have really good control of the brush. So we're going to work with that. And first, I'm just going to start with the blue. Ooh, I like that blue. I'm just coming in and adding some paint right on that fabric. What's kind of nice with this blue, at least, is because I've already painted the black lines, I can work a little bit quicker and you don't see it if I go into the black lined area. That's kind of nice. So I'm just going to paint in some of this blue. I put my phone on vibrate. I meant to turn it all the way off. So if you hear little buzzing noises, that's messages coming in. So I'm just going to work my way right down here like this. And here's the thing, while that's still wet, let's come in with a little bit of black and see if we can't darken that up a little bit. The blending doesn't exactly work the same on fabric as it does on a canvas. So I think that's where my learning curve is going to come in with this quilt, is doing the blending on the fabric, because the fabric just soaks it right up. It's working a little bit. That's kind of nice. The sad part is, with this white fabric, y'all, and the camera, the white does something to the exposure. And so everything looks darker on the screen than it actually is. So I'm not quite sure if you're seeing exactly what I see in person. And I still have a little bit of black in the brush, so you can see here and there it comes off. That's kind of nice. Ooh, there's a touch of purple in there. I don't know where that came from. It must be a pigment that makes up this blue color. Just working my way down. I do think once I add the white to this blue, I'm going to have to be a little bit more careful than what I'm being with just the blue. And try to stay in those lines. All right, so we have blue in the whole spot. Let's add a little bit of white. I'm just going to mix that in true Bob Ross fashion right on my paintbrush. Just mixing it right on the paintbrush. And let's add a little bit of lighter blue right down here. Yeah, I'm looking on the screen on my computer. It shows up a little bit, y'all, but it just doesn't show the color as it does in what I see. And I do think if you want to do this blending instead of just a solid, working on this area while it's wet will help a lot. Just like when we painted the other quilt though, I just want to say, the thinner you make this paint, the easier time you're going to have when you go back in and quilt this area, if that's something you want to do. I don't think you want to put a really thick amount of paint on the fabric, so just keep that in mind and be mindful of that while you're painting it in. My paint is nice and thin. There's no thick rolls of paint on the fabric. And I'm trying to keep it nice and thin. Let's see, let's add a little bit more black. Right up in this top section. There we go. And just bring that color down just a little bit. Yeah, I think I do like the shading and the variation of the color there. Let's see if we can brighten that up just a little bit more. Can we use a stencil? Ooh, that would be lovely. I'll tell you, when I did the seahorse, I painted in all of the areas, and I didn't show this in the video because it didn't work. I should have, because I like to show my mistakes, but I tried to use a stencil and do like a shimmer paint in one of the sections, and the paint bled underneath the stencil and made a big mess. Fortunately, I was able to get it all off before it dried. But if you can use a stencil without it bleeding underneath, I think that would be so pretty. I haven't figured out how to do that without it bleeding around the edges. There we go. Just blend that out just a little bit. All right, y'all, I think I'm going to call that good. I think that's kind of pretty. It's kind of pretty, right? What kind of paint am I using? And are you using the medium? Yep, I'm using the Deco Art Fabric Medium. And I'm using acrylic paint. So any of the brands of acrylic paint you want to use, you could certainly do that. But that's what I'm using. Did I just put that in the paint? No, I did not. All right, I'm going to rinse out this brush because I'm going to start with the blue up here again, and I have white and I have black in my brush. So I'm going to start with a nice clean brush for this section. And I kind of want these two panels to look totally different. So I'm not going to shade right up in this corner. We might do some other variations, but I want these two panels to look different. And that's just me. All right, let me wipe off this brush. Anyway, I thought we would spend about an hour painting on this quilt together, and we'll see how much I get done in that hour. I'm not going to try to rush through it. I do want to take my time, but yeah, let me add a little bit more white because I used up that. Miss Janet, Miss Dari, thank y'all so much for keeping an eye on the chat as well. All right, so let's start on this next section. I'm trying to keep it in the center of the in the center of the screen. See, I kind of like that brighter blue next to the darker panel next to it, so we're just going to paint this in blue up here. I do think once this is all painted in, I will probably come back and straighten up these black lines just a little bit. Because that'll be easy to do with a marker, and the marker won't bleed because as we're painting in the fabric here, we're kind of sealing it. And then you can work with the fabric markers without having them spread and bleed out. So I might come back in and clean up some of these lines. See, this block here is one of the biggest ones in this whole quilt. Now my nose is going to want to start to run. It's been stuffy all morning, and as soon as we turn on the camera, it's going to start to run. I think for this block, we're just going to get blue all in, and then we'll do maybe some shading of different colors. But let's just get the blue in there first. I am really excited to do the fabric version though. I have a few things I had to get done this week. I'm working on a t-shirt quilt for a client. So I've got the top together. So I need to quilt that, and I have a quilt for Miss Devi that needs to be quilted. And after those two things are done, then I'm going to have some time to play a little bit, and that's when I'm going to start my fabric version. I'm kind of really excited to do this quilt in fabric too. I do have a couple of batiks that I think would be gorgeous. And the ones that I have do have quite a bit of purple in them. So maybe that'll be my purple version of this quilt. Because I have some fabrics over there that have been waiting for just the right project, and I think they would look stunning in this quilt. I'm pretty positive they would. Because I'm using this little smaller brush to do this painting and blending in, it kind of looks a little patchy, doesn't it? I think if I was using a bigger brush, I would have maybe more of an even coat, possibly. But that's okay. I think stained glass panels have variations in the colors anyway, so this kind of looks authentic. Kathleen, I'm using a white Kona fabric. I got mine from Joann's, but I know most quilt shops carry Kona fabric. And if you don't have any shops near you that carry it, I did put a link down in the description box to a store that sells on Amazon, and they have where you can buy white Kona from them by the yard. So you can check that out. But yeah, I'm using the white Kona. It actually holds the paint very nicely. And it's not super, super thin. I really like it for the painting on fabric. I picked up some black Kona solid as well to do as the base foundation for my fabric version. So that's what I'm going to use when I make that quilt. And I'm going to have to mix up some more blue. Just making sure that paint is thin. It's a little blotchy, but I kind of actually like it blotchy. I think it's kind of pretty. Let's mix up some more blue. Yeah, it is super cold in here. Our upstairs is so funny because I'm actually in the room over the garage of our house. And we have two air conditioning and heating systems, one for downstairs and one for upstairs. So the thermostat for upstairs, see that door right there? If you go out that door, there's a hallway, and the thermostat's on the other end of the hallway. So if I'm in here, the room over the garage, and I close that door, the thermostat does not know how cold it is in this room. So it's actually kind of really cold in here right now. So if I'm not blasting out the music, then I usually leave that door open because it helps regulate the temperature out here. But when I work, 90% of the time I have music going, and it's loud enough that everyone in the house can hear it if I don't shut the door. I'm just mixing in some more fabric medium to this paint. I'm so glad we do these lives to give everybody a chance to chit-chat. I think that's awesome. All right, I think that should be enough blue to get us through this section here. And I'm just trying to go kind of quick because we're doing the video. I probably would actually slow down a little bit if I was just doing it on my own. Just spreading out that paint. Y'all, okay, so while I'm painting, so it's not just dead silence. If you're on the creative crew, you might have already seen this. But we went antique shopping. I say antique shopping. We went to antique stores. I don't necessarily look for antiques. If I see one that I like, I'll get it. But while we were there at one of them, they had a flute. Well, in middle school, I played the flute, let's see, 4 years. 4 years. That was like 35 years ago. I haven't done the math, but it's about 35 years ago. And my flute that I had, I lent to someone and I never got it back. So that was sad. But they had a flute at one of these stores we went to. And I checked it out, I looked at it, and we bought it. Harlan was like, you should get that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get it. And since last weekend, y'all, I have nonstop played that flute in every bit of spare time that I've had. And I have had the most fun. And actually it's come back pretty easily. I did have to like relearn the fingering of the notes. But yeah, I have just had so much fun. So let's see. Some of the songs I'm learning right now. Nights in White Satin is gorgeous on the flute. And it has a flute solo. So I'm learning that one right now. I'm spending a lot of time on that song. And does anybody here watch Outlander? I'm learning the intro song for Outlander. We're currently watching season 5 of Outlander. We restarted at the beginning, and we got to season 5, and we had not seen season 5 yet. So we are in season 5, but season 6 starts in March, I think. So, but I've always loved the theme song of Outlander, so I'm learning that on the flute. All right, we've almost got this section painted in with the blue. All right, so this is a really good example, and I don't know if you can see that. You can just see that if I hold the fabric up a little bit. See right through here? That's where the fabric lifted off of that freezer paper, y'all. You're brushing the fabric, it might lift off that freezer paper, especially if you're using Reynolds freezer paper. I'm using, what's the name of it? Meat Hugger freezer paper, and it really bonds really well. But when you're brushing that fabric with a brush, it might lift off. And that's one of the reasons why I painted the black lines in first, because I used a heat erasing pen. And now that the black lines are painted in, I'm not going to lose this design. And when this section is dry, I'm just going to hit it with I will cover it with a scrap piece of fabric, and I'm going to heat set it again just to secure that, to rebond that freezer paper while I'm working on this. Because it really does help to not have that fabric swishing around while you're painting, right? So I'm really glad that I did paint the black lines first. I'm not going to lose the design. And once this is dry, I'm just going to rebond it and resecure it so it stays nice and stabilized in other places as I paint. Pat said, I can hardly wait to hear you play. We shall see. We shall see. All right, so now that I've got the blue, I kind of really like that whole panel just being a solid blue. What do you think? It makes it look different than this panel, and they're both blue. I might leave this one just blue. Kind of really like it. See, that's what happened with the last quilt. I thought I would do, that's why we didn't use two of the colors, or I didn't. Because two of the colors on the last quilt, I thought I would get fancy and do some shading and stuff like that. But once I got the paint painted down, I kind of really just liked it the way it was. I'm just going to go in some areas. I don't know if you can see it, but some of the areas, a little bit of white was showing through where I probably didn't put enough paint down. So I'm just going to go back in and hit a couple of these areas. Which may make it look even more splotchy, but I'm okay with that. Yes, I have had the most fun with my flute. I'm so glad we found it. What's really weird is we were just talking about me getting a flute like 3 weeks ago. Honestly, we were. And we looked up the cost of a flute, and we were like, never mind. I think I'll hold off a little while on the flute. Because they're a few $100s for a student one, at least. And I was like, I think I'll pass for right now. And sure enough, we saw this one, and they only wanted $90 for it. And I was like, okay, well, that is a huge savings. And it works wonderfully. So we got it. And saved a couple of hundreds of dollars. I was at the right place at the right time. I'm just going back and adding a little bit more paint, but I'm not making it super thick, y'all. I want to be able to quilt this really easily, so I'm not making the paint super thick. And one of the reasons why we added the fabric medium is because when we heat set this, when we're all done, that fabric medium is going to soften up this paint to make it easier to quilt through as well. So All right, right there needs a little bit more blue, and then I think we're going to call this panel done. Oh, there's some little weird streak showing up right there. See, this is where my I have this thing, like I can't just stop. All right, we're stopping. I'm not going to do anything with this blue panel. I think it's pretty next to that one. So we're going to call that one done. Cheryl, you're still having problems with your foot. My glory. Have you, I forget now, you have to remind me, have you gone to see someone about your foot? I can't quite remember. I'm just going to rinse that brush out. Yes, Pat, I was almost scared to pick up the flute because I thought that they'd want like 300 or something for it. But I did. I picked it up and it was $90 and we just could not walk away from it. Trinita, you're going to use a long arm next week. Ooh, that's exciting. You're going to have to let me know what you think. Pat said, do you know when you get to the fabric version? Sometime next week, Miss Pat. I have 2 quilts I need to quilt and get those done. And one of them needs a binding. So as soon as I get those wrapped up, probably this weekend into Monday, then I'm going to have plenty of time to sit down and work on the fabric version and record it so I can make a video. So maybe sometime next week. All right, so we have those 2 blues. Before we close up, we have about 15 minutes. Even though I have blue mixed up, let's go ahead and do this little section right here because that's going to pop. And let's see. It almost looks orange. Did I use orange or did I use red? Which one do we want to do? Orange or red? Let's do orange. I think it's actually red, but we're gonna do orange. Let's see if I've opened this one. No, I have not. All right. Just poke a little hole right in that lid. And we'll mix up just a small little amount of orange. I don't want to waste too much. I didn't poke the hole big enough. Or, nope, I left the little white thing in there. Of course I did. All right. There you go. Now let's try it. There we go. I just laughed, so it made me think of this comment from the other day. When I was doing the live video Tuesday for the mug rug, and we got to the quilting part of it, and my thread kept breaking, and I said, I probably need to clean out my bobbin area. And I must have laughed a couple of times during that part of the video. Well, I just got a comment on that video, like yesterday or day before yesterday, and they said, you keep laughing, but it's not, I don't think it's funny at all. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was laughing about it. But y'all, I did clean out my machine. So here's your reminder. You might have saw it yesterday. I posted a picture of what came out of my bobbin area yesterday. It was a lot. So here's your reminder. If you haven't cleaned out your bobbin area, you might want to take a look and do that. You might want to do it. Sylvia said she cleaned hers out and she got so much she could have filled a cushion with it. Yeah, I know. I know, Miss Ella, you can't really pay attention. She did not think it was funny. It was not funny to her. All right, here we go. With the orange. Hello, honey. You might as well come in and say hi to everybody. We're just painting. He must have forgot I was live, y'all.
I did. Hi, everybody. Ooh, that's pretty.
Isn't that pretty?
Yeah. Ooh. All right, well, I just came up to see if you wanted lunch. But
I do want lunch. We'll be done in about 10 minutes.
Okay. All right, love you.
Love you. Everybody says hi.
Hi, everybody.
So let me just talk about these paints before we go. Because like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I've used a few of the colors. I've used black to paint the black lines on all of the previous art quilts we've painted so far. I really like the black. I had used a little bit of white in areas of, one of those areas, I lightened up a color with the white. And one of the reds that we used in the mystery quilt was one of these colors. The others were apple barrel and Americana colors. I am noticing this blue and the orange. Not that this is a bad thing because it's actually kind of pretty. But these paints are more translucent than the apple barrel and the Americana acrylic paints. So just in case, a heads up if you're thinking about getting them, they're a little bit more translucent. Not a bad thing, but it's almost like they have a little less pigment in them because I am seeing the white fabric through the paint a little bit more easily with this specific brand of paint. So just a heads up. You saw me take the lid off the orange. It's the first time I've used the orange. And it's a little transparent. And I used the orange on the seahorse. That was apple barrel paint. And it was not translucent at all. It was solid. So, just letting you know that. Let's see, let's add a little bit of red to this. And yeah, this must be the red I used in the other quilt. Let's just add a little bit of shading to this one. Ooh. That's nice. I know you can't see that because I have a glare. See that? That's kind of lovely. I'll take a picture so you can see the true colors, and I'll post it on Creative Crew. But that's kind of pretty. I'm not hating the fact that The orange is more translucent. I guess for this particular quilt, it's actually quite nice. See that? That's gorgeous. I'm not going to touch it anymore. I'm going to leave it just like that. And we're going to stop there. Betty, you are so funny. You are so funny. You make me laugh. Yeah, Wanda, it gives it that burnt orange. Oh, it's so pretty in person. You can't see it because of that light. And because the white just doesn't like an overexposure on the video. But I'm going to take a picture of it. And I'll post it on the crew after we're done with the live. And I'm just rinsing out that brush so I don't forget. So here we are, y'all. I don't feel like we've made a huge amount of progress, but it's very pretty. Now I might work on a couple of these little panels between now and next Friday. I still want to paint, next week and possibly the week after that because we're going to be going into this area. I want to get the outsides done. And I really don't want to rush this quilt. But let me just give you a preview of what we're doing next, if I can find it. Yeah, I love the red orange. That's pretty. Ooh, it's so pretty next to the blue, too. Give me just a second. Trying to see what I did with that. It's not in my planner. Where would it be? Where would it be, y'all? I feel totally discombobulated. Give me 1 second. I'm going to step off the camera for a second because I want to show you. Where did I put that? I thought it was on my long arm frame. It's not. I have the next quilt designed. I wish I knew where I put it. Soon as I turn off the camera, it's gonna be like, here I am. I'm right here. Hummingbirds. If you like hummingbirds, you're gonna like the next art quilt. It will be a painted quilt just like this. What I really want to do, okay, so you see I have the seahorse, and then we did the mystery quilt. Those are up on the wall. I did 2 of the mystery quilts, right? I still haven't quilted the one we did together. That's the one that's on point right there. And then we're going to have this one. It's the same size as those. And I want to do one more that is the 20 by 20. So I have a group of 4. Then we might do some smaller ones and make a collage, right? I think that would be gorgeous. I think it would be stunning. Yes, you love the hummingbirds. Yay! Oh, it's so pretty. And I just had that. Like, I know it's here. And so I guess you'll have to be patient and wait for next week. But it's gorgeous. It is so pretty. I was going to do, and it was hard to let this one go. It was going to look like a crocheted granny square, 20 by 20. But, oh, it had a lot of black lines in it. And when I think about doing these art quilts like this, I try to think if someone going to do it in fabric instead, and how easy would that process be? And is someone doing the painted version and they're not really comfortable working with the paints? Is this like an easy beginner level quilt? Is it an intermediate quilt, or is it more advanced, right? I try to think of all these things. I drew out a crocheted granny square. And I think that that would be like advanced level because it was just a lot of black lines and a lot of small areas of painting. So I said, let me put that off to the side and let me do something different. So that's when I came up with the hummingbird, and the hummingbird is gorgeous. So that's the one we're going to do next. Ella says, I need to get some paints. Well, the good news is, y'all, the acrylic paints, as far as crafting supplies go, right, are relatively budget friendly. And just get yourself some fabric medium to mix in them, and some white fabric. Yes, and you can play along. So y'all, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Keep an eye out for this picture. I'm going to post it on the cruise so you can see what the true colors look like. They're much prettier in person. And again, if you're on Patreon, I hope you stop by, if not for the whole time, for a little bit, and say hello and hang out with everybody. That's Sunday from 2 to 8. If you're not on Creative Crew, but you have a Facebook, come join us. There's a link down in the description box. Make sure to answer both questions. And yeah, join in the fun there. We're over 6,000 members on Creative Crew. So a special huge shout out to Miss Maureen, Miss Diva. You might know Diva from the chat. That's Maureen. She helps me moderate the crew, and she does an awesome job over there. But yes, come join us. We have a lot of fun. And again, a huge shout out to my moderators here on YouTube. Thank y'all so much. I don't have to worry about no nonsense in the chat area. Y'all are on it. Trinita said, where do you get your fabric medium at? I know they have it at Walmart, and that might be the easiest, fastest place to go get it. But if you have a Michaels or Joann Fabrics or any kind of crafting store, I picked mine up at Joann's. And what's kind of nice getting it at Joann's is if it's not on sale already, you can use a coupon on it, right? So that's the fabric medium. I got that from Joann Fabrics. But it's not really brand specific, okay? I've used many different brands. This just happens to be my favorite at this moment. I've used it the last 2 art quilts, and it works really fantastic. Okay, everybody. I hope y'all have a fantastic weekend. I'm going to go eat some lunch with Mr. Harlan, and I'm going to post a picture of this on the crew. So I hope to see y'all really soon. And if I don't see you between now and then, I'll see you next Friday. We're going to work on a couple more panels. Okay? I hope that even if this is not your thing, and I hope that even it might be your thing, but you're just not making this quilt because you have other stuff going on, right? I hope you still watch along and join in. The main reason we do these lives, of course, it's about the project, but more importantly, it's about the community and the family we're building here. And so, yeah, it's just great to hang out with everybody. Bye-bye, everybody.